So I just had the most profound thought. What if Star Wars isn't real? Now, now, before you click off this video, understand what I'm saying. Okay, in history, there are samurais and knights. They actually existed. But then we have the popular interpretation of these characters in a more romanticized way. So you have the legendary ninjas, the legendary samurai, knights of the round table. We have a mythological version of actual historical figures. What I'm saying is, what if Star Wars was set up as exactly that? What if we are simply glimpsing, taking a look at the romanticized version of actual events that took place in this fictional universe? For example, how do most myths or fictional stories start off? How does Star Wars start off? In recent years, we've had two very different approaches to Star Wars. You have some of the clunky dialogue. The idea is
it's a film for 12-year-olds.
And then you have Andor is done in a completely different level.
And that ends today. What's wrong? Can't swim. What? What did he say? Can't swim.
Smile. I've learnt from Palpatine. I show you the stone in my hand, you miss the knife at your throat.
They're so proud of themselves, they don't even care. They're so fat and satisfied, they can't imagine it.
Can't imagine what?
That someone like me would ever get inside their house, walk their floors, spit in their food, take their gear.
To be honest with you, as you watch Andor, it's hard to reconcile how it fits together with some of the other elements we know of with Star Wars. But again, my premise is that what if Andor is real? Andor is our first glimpse at the real universe that the stories of Star Wars originates with. That's why the dialogue is so much better. That's why the characters are so much more fleshed out. That's why there's not such definitive good and evil in Andor. It's all kind of gray area because it's presented in a more realistic fashion. What if that is our first glimpse at the reality of Star Wars, the universe behind this legend that we've kind of romanticized and we love to enjoy? Think about that. If Disney could embrace this idea, think about the possibilities here. You can continue to do the romanticized version of Star Wars, with its clunky dialogue and some of the fun things that happen there, some of the goofy elements. Okay, great. At the same time, we could have an entirely new Star Wars universe at the level of quality of Andor moving forward.
And then remember this. The Imperial need for control is so desperate because it is so unnatural. Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks. It leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. Remember that.
For example, we've not seen what a real Jedi Knight truly was. We know the romanticized version of this person wielding this lightsaber and these, amazing force abilities. But what if, just like the Knights of the Round Table, for example, that's based on there were legendary knights, but they weren't this ideal version. What if there were these special elite group of people that were called Jedi? But what were they like? If we have a very grounded, more realistic approach to that. Same thing with the Sith. Someone on the opposite end, similar, same background, same training, but they perhaps are not as selfless, or perhaps they use their skills to the highest bidder, like mercenaries. Who knows? The point is that it could open up Star Wars to a much more serious, Dune-esque approach to storytelling. A world with grounded rules, with less fantastical elements. Same thing, the Clone Wars. These are the fictional, romanticized retelling of actual events that took place in this grounded universe. I think the possibility is just endless of what this could mean for Star Wars. It explains clearly why we've had such a different approach to Andor as opposed to the rest of Star Wars that we've seen. And it doesn't dismiss anything from Star Wars. It's presented as a mythological story, basically. It's always been presented that way. Maybe that's what George had in mind to begin with. I don't know. But if Disney embraced this concept, they could continue in that line, all the mythological, the fun, the crazy elements that we know of as Star Wars. Simultaneously, they could give us something more along the lines of Andor moving forward. Now, I know Rogue One falls in that same category, but the scene with Darth Vader kind of ruins it in terms of not. It's a great scene, trust me, but it kind of ruins it because it shows, in this realistic universe, there's still this, Sith Lord. That aside, Rogue One and Andor both have that very realistic, grounded approach to the Star Wars universe. And I just think it's a really interesting concept, an interesting idea. If everything we've seen so far is just the romanticized retelling of stories that actually took place in this universe, this more grounded universe. For example, Lucian gives the most amazing speech, monologue during Andor.
I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything!
It's hard to reconcile the sophistication of the storytelling in Andor with what we have in most of Star Wars. What if Lucian was one of these fictional Jedi people, but what would the real version of that have been like? What was he really like at that time period when they did have these higher ideals, perhaps? But the point is, I think if Disney could embrace this idea, it would open up a flood of opportunities and types of storytelling they could take. The legendary, romanticized version that we've always had, and then this grounded, realistic approach to what the real world behind the Star Wars legend actually is. So drop a comment below. What do you think? Again, this idea came to me recently. And I was like, oh my goodness, this makes so much sense. What if Star Wars isn't real? Comment below, like and subscribe. Until later,